We have a lovely, lovely Fender concert in. I don't know the date yet. Actually, there's a code there I didn't see when I was looking inside. What does this say? 67233. I have to date this. Anyway, I'm not sure of the year yet. There's no standard EIA code that I recognize on the transformers, but this was a period of transition for Fenders, so I will find a date and put it on the title of this video, probably before I finish filming it. Anyway, we're going to take a look and see what the condition of this amp is as it came in. I did not put this up on the bench because it's physically very large, but here you can see the cabinet with 4 replacement speakers. We'll see how they do. Also had a very, very crappy plastic molded cable plug combination. We're going to change that out in the course of things, but worth showing, not a big deal. All right, screws out. Doghouse cover coming up. Doesn't have that resistance. There's an adhesive strip underneath here, and a lot of times it will grab onto the caps. So these caps might have been changed or something, or it's been open at some point. Let's see. Ah, okay, good. It's all been changed out for these Sprague Atoms. Let's see if I can get a date code on that. 2022. So unless they did a horrible job, it seems all right to me, we're not going to immediately worry about these at all. I'll triple check the solder joints. Like I said, I don't have a date code that I recognize on any of these except the choke, which has a date code of 59. Would not surprise me for 59. This could be 60 through 63 on this concert and still have a 59 choke. I don't know what the date code on this output is. I have 45249 here. Just says Fender on the other side, and nothing is printed on this side of the power transformer. We interrupt this nice video on this old concert to revisit the subject of the baffle of this 61 Princeton, mentioned in the video you guys saw day before yesterday, where I suspected that this baffle had been replaced because of the front panel screws, and the fact that there is, instead of having a frame which is visible like this, which is nice and symmetrical, the framing is all right here, and it's off kilter. It's much higher here than it is here. Obviously done by hand. Turns out this is original. This is what the very first brown panel Fenders were done like, especially apparently the Princeton. There are not a lot of them out there, and given how obviously off kilter that is and how hand done that is, this might be a very, very early instance of the 6G2 model. So this baffle will not be getting changed. There's nothing wrong with it. I was wrong because I just had not seen one before, and all the other 61 and 62 and 63 Princetons I have had the later baffle where the frame was out here and very neat, and all the screws were coming from the rear. So everything I said about this baffle 2 days ago, never mind. All right, so aside from the 2 screen grid resistors here, which look to be some 2-watt metal oxides and a poorly changed out power cable, I'm not seeing anything else in here which has been touched at all, including the old electrolytics, which do have little bits of bulge at some of the positive ends, especially that one there. And it is chock full of these yellow astrons, which are notorious for leaking DC. But since it at least has new filter caps, I'm going to power this up on the current limiter, just in case there's any issue with the bias from these old caps, and see what the current sound and performance is. I know that I'm going to be changing the electrolytics, and I know that I'm probably going to be changing out the astrons. If this were the blue Ajax caps of the slightly later ones starting in late 62, I would not be changing them. The blue Ajax caps almost never fail. These yellow astrons almost never don't fail. All right, since this model has a solid state rectifier, I'm going to power it on, but leave it in standby. All right, let's listen while I take it out of standby, and let's watch the light limiter bulb off there in the distance. All right, well, no big glow. That's good. Pretty good amount of hum in the output. That's to be expected with all those old astrons and electrolytic bypass caps. Let's start with the normal channel. We'll listen for pops as I plug and unplug the jacks. That much is good. Really weak output. Not too noisy though. Just pretty anemic. It's got mostly current production groove tube preamp tubes, so that gain is probably due to the old cathode bypass caps. All right, so it's good on the input jacks. Very buzzy on the high frequencies, and there's some DC on the volume pot of the guitar, as you can tell. I don't remember if I had that on the normal channel. All right, there's no DC present on the normal channel volume or the normal channel input, but the DC is definitely present here on the vibrato channel input. I don't remember if this tremolo works without the foot pedal attached. Yes. But it's really weak. Alright, that's probably going to be a combination of the Astrons and the cathode bypass caps. Let's check the present circuit. Pretty subtle. I imagine that cap is semi-kaput. It should be much more apparent than that. And while the little mic, overhead mic I'm using to speak through won't agree with this, the output of this amp is very low at this point. So let's put the guitar away. I'm going to move the camera, and we're going to take some DC readings and see if we find any leakage out of those Astrons. All right, I've gone through and lifted caps, as you can see, and I've measured the capacitance out of circuit, and using this 1 meg to ground here and moving this alligator clamp around from cap to cap, I've been able to measure everything for leaking voltage. And all these Astrons are leaking between 30 and 50 millivolts, which is not a ton for a yellow Astron of this age, but it's not ideal because 30 to 50 millivolts is a lot more than 0 millivolts. And these caps will continue to leak, and eventually they'll be leaking substantial voltage and everything will be off. The capacitance is within a pretty good range, with the exception of these 200 nanofarads. This one measures about 50 nanofarads. This one measures about 150. So they're out of, these two are out of spec. I haven't measured every cap in here, just the ones with the significant voltage across them. I'm going to recommend to the owner that we change all the Astrons out. And like I said before, I would not suggest this blindly, and I would not do this at all typically with blue Ajax caps, which came in late '62. But these yellow Astrons and the red Astrons from the mid-50s amps, they all fail, they all leak. It's just a matter of time. The choice the owner has is which caps to use. I can use the big yellow Jupiters everyone seems to like. It's quite a few caps in this, especially with the harmonic trim, and the Jupiters would add up to $100. I can also use the Vishay MKT1813s, which I love. That total would be about $30. I think that the Vishay MKT1813s are a better capacitor in terms of construction, consistency, etc., etc. People on the forums love the looks of the yellow Jupiters. It is totally up to the owner whether he wants the Jupiters or the Vishays. I'll happily use either. The Jupiters are fine caps. I just think that they're very overpriced. and don't give any benefit over the cap, which costs literally a third the price. So that's where that is. I already know I'm going to be changing out the electrolytics. I expect I'll probably be changing out these ceramic disc caps as well. They're notorious for drifting and absorbing moisture, and these three caps here could be why the tremolo is so weak. It's really not a big deal. Does not change the qualities that we want from one of these amps as far as the vintage correct sound for everything to be working the way Leo designed it. Remember that Leo Fender's genius as an amp designer was that he made his amps easy to service because he had a background in amp repair and servicing, and he expected his amps to need service every so often. This is an almost untouched amp from the Kennedy administration, so I think an interval has passed. There are some really not great solder joints there on those changed out screen grid resistors. I'll be replacing those with some better quality ones and much nicer solder joints, because that won't do. And just in general, the board, all the wires, pretty much everything just is covered with a layer of dust. There's some pet hair everywhere. There's some cobwebs everywhere. Just the entire thing needs a deep, deep cleaning that's going to extend to the tube sockets. So we have electrolytic caps. We've got film caps. We've got ceramic disc caps. We've got deep cleaning and the screen grid resistors. And then I will go through at that point and verify that every resistor in the circuit is within tolerance, is not noisy, is performing as needed, and we'll make sure there's no DC leaking anywhere in the board itself. So, it's a lot, but it's totally going to be worth it. Stay tuned for all that, and thanks for watching.